God. Hi, my name is Brianna McDonald. I'm an actress and I'm a producer. My company is called The B Word, and so stoked to be here.
Is this working? Okay, there we go. A lot easier. Hi, I'm Jackie Schwartz. I am a producer, writer, and activist. I run a company with my business partners called Besties Make Movies, and I am so excited to be here. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So, children's ideas about body image start as early as 3 or 4. And the tagline at the Institute is, if they can see it, they can be it. Personally, for myself, I was probably 32 before I saw a fat woman in a professional role, which was Cameron Manheim as Eleanor Frump in The Practice. And I was over 50 when I saw Chrissy Metz in This Is Us represent a woman who was fat and just had a normal life and a normal career and a husband. And we really want to I'm getting teared up just talking about that. And we really want to make that not be the case for our kids that are growing up now. So Soraya, who is up there, who's a researcher at USC Norman Lear Center, had horrible plane troubles yesterday, so she's not here. And I was going to have her frame the conversation in terms of why this is important. But our panelists are going to help me do that. So, Jackie, why don't we start with you? Why is it important to have fat representation in media?
This is a great question. For me, I think having representation in media changed everything for me, for better and for worse. I feel like my whole self-worth, or most of my self-worth, actually did come from what I saw on TV, which was Fat Monica, Shallow Hal, all of these films that made me feel like I was less of a person because of my size. And what we see on TV, what we see in movies, what we see anywhere in social media, it really affects us, and that can follow us our entire lives. And so we have the lens of, I got into this business because I know that media is something that we all. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Is something is the most powerful tool for change, and that can be for better or for worse. And for me, I just want to be a person who makes people feel good about themselves, makes them feel like they are seen, heard, and celebrated.
Love that. Yeah, to piggyback off that, and hopefully we don't do I totally agree with everything you're saying, and that's the whole panel. But I totally agree with what you're saying, and I did not grow up with anybody that looked like, who was fat in my family, nobody. So I got everything from my identity from media. So exactly, Shallow Hal. Shallow Hal, fully. Yeah. But I formed so much of who I was, my self-worth, from the media that I was taking in. So I think representative media is life-giving, life-changing, and we're excited to be here doing that change.
And you are a change, too.
Yeah, that was exactly why I think we all got into this industry, and it was why I started creating my own work, because what I wanted to do, what I wanted to see, didn't exist.
I disagree with what you're saying. No, I'm not that person. I mean, I want to say this so eloquently, but it's not going to come out that way. For me, why it's important to have any representation, but especially fat representation in media, is truly to show that we're worthy of being part of the conversation. And I think it is what you're saying, Jackie, where it's like, we're those people now, especially in this generation, where like, don't get your self-worth off of TV, but that's where you get it. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing. It's something that is so in your face and something that you see all the time. Models, actors, actresses, anybody in the public spotlight, you see these people, and if they don't look like you, what does that say about people who do look like you? That they're not even getting a chance to sit at the table. They're not even getting a chance to put their foot in the door. That says a lot. And I think exactly what you're saying, it's like there's people like us who are trying to say, hey, we are here, we are worthy, but we're not at the tops of any of those ladders yet. And those are the people who are the gatekeepers. They are the people who are saying, great, we are opening that door for you, but we need to get there first. And, yeah, for me, I mean, I don't really think I've seen even still somebody who looks like me that wasn't me in the media. And that sounds super cocky. I apologize, but it's true. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're talking about Chrissy and you're talking about Cameron, and it's like, I had to see me in order to see me. And that's really sad.
Yeah.
And the implications of this are really huge and life-changing. And that was one of the things that Soraya was talking about, is they're doing research at University of Pittsburgh where they're using medical dramas to train medical students on how to treat fat people, because the health care for fat people and their fear of even going to the doctor, because everything is, they want to make everything about your weight, is huge. Mm-hmm. And Brittany, you were talking about a lot of the roles that you go up for around this.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone out for a couple, like Chicago Med, New Amsterdam, these really great medical shows that are, fantastic. But every single role I've gone out for is usually a pregnant woman who has complications because she's overweight. Oh. And it's every single time. And on the same show. Chicago Med, I've gone for several women who are pregnant that had complications from weight, which does happen. But there are so many fat women out there who have successful pregnancies with no problems. Why can't we show those? Mm-hmm. Like,
right, exactly.
Why is that not a character? Why is that not relatable to any fat woman out there? Like, that, again, is because we don't have those people at the top who are saying, yeah, we have a pregnancy storyline. Let's just bring in Brittany because she's great. But it's like, nah, she's rushing into the hospital. She got gestational diabetes. Bring in Brittany. Like, that's not what it should be. And again, it's just getting those people at the top. But yeah, it is I've turned down a lot of auditions like that where I'm just like, I don't want to continue to tell this storyline in this way.
So Glow was a really incredible show.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. And Gina was in it too.
So yeah.
I don't know if you guys
She was
noticed
amazing.
That. But I think that was a really different experience for you than what you are seeing post-Glow. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, Glow was, just from getting the audition, was very different for me because in the audition, it, in bold type, like underlined and everything, said, come with no makeup, come as you are. And that to me, I was like, wow, like that's already very different in this day and age. And I definitely sat in the waiting room and saw some women who did have makeup on. And I can tell you right now, none of them are on the show. None of them.
You listen to direction well.
Yeah, simply you listen to direction, great. But none of them got cast. And it was something where when we did get cast, we did all this training beforehand. And our showrunners, Liz and Carly, they're just a duo. Liz Flahive and Carly Mensch told us, do not do any training, weight training, lose weight beforehand. We want to see you guys as you are. And again, that's so different. Like here we are in this physical space and they want us to come in our own bodies, which was really amazing. But for me, what really set it all apart was that my character was described as a gentle giant. And I was like, that's so sweet. Like, that's so nice because I'm used to bully, depressed, low self-esteem, overweight. Gentle giant is kind, and it was something that when I spoke to Liz and Carly after getting the part, they're like, we just want you to be yourself. We don't want you, to fall into these stereotype, fat Monica, she hates herself, and they're like, and you are the best athlete on the show. And I was like, that never happens either. And I did the most athletic stuff on that show. Like, I actually had to ask for an episode off of wrestling because I was like, it's too much for me. I was like, I need a rest,
Nobody
guys.
mess with Brittany.
I was like, I need a break, Chavo. But it was just so amazing to see that they really did want to write to our body types and to our strengths instead of trying to make us fit into these molds, especially in the 80s. Everything's high cut and... Oof. Oof. Well, I was in Walmart shorts and cutoffs, but, I'll take it.
But do you feel like now you have access to the roles that you want now that Glow's over?
No. Truthfully, no. And it's like, we were talking about it. It is one of those things where I'm very blessed that I spent 4 years as a series regular on a successful show and that people liked my character and want to see me in more things. And it's such a, great feeling to have that support. But then coming off of Glow, I thought I'd be auditioning. I thought I'd be, doing all these cool things. I'm not. Like, the truth of the matter is, like I was saying to Brown, like, I don't know if it's because I don't have a good team or if it's because Hollywood is not writing roles that I fit or that they're not willing to bring me in for roles that they didn't think I could do. Mm-hmm. Like, truthfully, I'm auditioning maybe, and like for people outside the business, it might be like, wow, I'm auditioning maybe 20 times a year, which is averaging about 2 times a month. People are going in 2 times a week. My friends are auditioning for 7 different things at a time. And I'm sitting here trying to get one line on an Apple show. And it's just the mixture of we don't have writers out there who are writing for fat characters, and we don't have casting directors out there who are willing to bring in fat actors for roles that don't have any physical description. And again, it's being at the top of the ladder. We need to get people up there who are going to support us, people up there who are going to root for us, who are going to cheer for us. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's now why we all are trying to do things behind the scene. Like, I'm trying to produce things right now so I can see people like me going out there, or all the people who come up to me at events like this who are like, what can I do? And it's like, make your own stuff, because that's what's going to get you work.
Yeah.
That
Amen.
was a roundabout answer.
Yeah. And I think that leads to Jackie as a filmmaker and also an activist. How have you used your platform to advocate for authentic representation?
Well, first of all, Brittany, thank you for saying all of that.
You're welcome. It's the truth.
And I think some of what you're describing is truly like the implications of how the real world treats fat people, unfortunately, not only from, medical treatment to just how generally we're looked at and how, what people think that they can say to us that's appropriate about our own bodies. So I just wanted to say that first. But as a producer, I really look at representation in a 360 form, in front of the camera and behind the camera. And, it's not just about putting someone on the screen and saying, oh, okay, we've done our job. When we have representation in front of the screen, we need to be having people behind the screen who look just like those on the screen as well. That's really important to me. So you're not the only fat person in the room. I think it was Barbie Ferreira, I'm not really sure if it was her, so don't quote me on that, who said that often she is the only fat person in the room when she's on set, and how that really does make her uncomfortable. And I can understand that, because often I'm the only fat producer on set. Often, I feel that way. But I think the more we bring people behind the scenes, the more it changes in front of the camera. This starts with casting, and we had this conversation a little bit too. We need to hire casting directors who want to see representation, and not just, oh, I want to, hire this fat person for this role. We have to have someone who says, okay, like, why can't Brittany, why Brianna, you're an actor too, obviously, why can't you go in for roles that the skinny people are going for? We are not just, there's no reason that shouldn't be the case. Also I try to work with other producers who have the same mindset I do and look like me as well. This and make sure that, we are hiring, crew who understand, and costume designers are so important as well. I think a lot of costume designers are afraid that they're not going to know how to fit larger bodies.
The amount of clothes I've had to bring from my own wardrobe.
That is constantly something that I hear all the time. And why are we afraid of this? There are plenty of plus size brands out there who would die to partner with any of the talent who is, a plus size on set. So I think it's just really when you hire people behind the scenes who look like the characters that are being played in front of the camera, everything changes. It really does. And I really try that 360 approach is really important to me.
Yeah. Brianna, what strategies have you implemented? And what are some of the success stories you've had?
Ooh, okay. So a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. So I started in theater as I feel like the pipeline from like theater kid to plus size influencer is very strong. That's like a pipeline. So I was doing theater and I was like 21 years old, only getting cast as like grandma. And I was like, this is not giving. This is not giving. This is not what I want to do. These are not the stories I want to tell. And then I started producing and directing theater. And I did a production of Little Shop of Horrors, and I cast a plus-size Audrey, who is the romantic lead. And every review we got was, oh my God, this is so crazy and radical. Like a plus-size Audrey in Little Shop. Like we can't even imagine this. And that was when I was like, wow. We have so far to go. And I started a plus-size fashion blog called The B Word, which then I started to creatively direct, and I started to create digital series, short films, and that is now my production company. And I just really was like tired of the roles I was being offered. And I was like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to hire intersectional, diverse crew to make it, because I totally agree that it's from the top down. It needs to be diverse so that we have so many different points of views, and it just makes the work richer. And I was tired of being the only fat person in the room. I was like, I can't, this is also not giving. So we just shot a short film, a digital short film that's coming out next week. I'm super excited about it. It's a fantasy plus-size princess moment, and something that was very successful was the intention of what we were doing was up front, first and foremost. We are creating something that is unapologetically fat and fat positive, and that is the energy that you need to bring to set. We had an incredibly diverse crew. It was incredibly inclusive, and that really made the experience so successful. I can't wait to share it with everyone. It's coming out next week. I'll see you guys
beautiful.
Online. Oh, yeah, I showed Jackie a little bit of it, and she's like, can we watch it now?
Images are some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Oh, Jack, thank you so much. And yeah, so did I answer your question, Elizabeth? Who knows? But some strategies, yes, is to, again, from top to bottom, make sure you're as diverse as possible. Make sure it's a safe, inclusive space that people can be creative. They can share their point of views, because that makes your work richer. And I am also a huge proponent of, let's make it ourselves.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing a lot is, you know, if we're going to do it, we have to make it ourselves. I don't know.
Which is sad.
It is sad.
Honestly sad, but here we are.
Sad.
Yeah, it is sad, and it's one of the things that I'd like people to go away with is some idea about the things, even the simple things that they could do on a set to make it more comfortable or easier for fat actors. And I just want to highlight the plus-size princess. I was Cinderella in third grade. Mr. Edwards, who was vastly ahead of his time, cast me in that role.
I was,
Yes.
you know.
Were you?
No, I was Peter Rabbit's mom. I was usually the mom. They're like, oh, she's larger than the other children. She's the mom.
Yeah, I was giving grandma, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm so young. I'm 18.
Shout out to Bonnie Milligan, though, who just won, I think, for Kimberly
That's
Akimbo, and also mentioned being plus size in Broadway. So we should just shout out to her, because that was an incredible moment.
Alex Newell.
Yes.
And you know what's so interesting is I was looking at our data. So at the Institute, we do an annual study looking at children's content that looks at all the 6 identities. And like I said, one of those is fatness. And I was looking at the results from last year's study as I was preparing for this panel. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It's saying that when they looked at fat people in this content, they were more likely to be in leadership roles, and they were more likely to be in romantic relationships. And I'm like, well, that's really, right? Exactly. I was like, that's really weird. And I called our VP of research, and I was like, what is this about? Because that is 100% not what I was expecting to see. And she said, well, number one is children's content, which is different than what you're saying. But always the fat actors are playing much older characters. Mm-hmm. So they're much more likely to be Peter Rabbit's mom.
I get a lot of like, which again, I'm not a cocky person, guys. It's just
Be cocky.
But it's like I get a lot of roles that are like, oh, 40 to 50. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not near those ages, but why? And they're like, oh, but like just show them what you can do. And then they'll just rewrite the part for you. And I'm like, but that's the thing, is there is a 40 to 50 actor out there, probably a 40 to 50 fat actor out there, who could play this part and could play this part amazing. And you're choosing to bring in people who don't fit this. Like, why even have a casting breakdown looking for something specific if you're not going to actually try to find that specific person? Like, there's a line in Glow that stuck with me so much from the first season where the casting director tells Alison Brie's character, I bring you in because the director tells me he wants to see something different. So I bring you in to show them he doesn't want different. And that's really stuck with me because I'm like, oh, are we as fat character or fat actors put into that part where it's like we come in to show that we're diverse? Whenever they say open ethnicity, open size, they do bring in people, but they still cast the same person.
Yep.
And I don't literally mean they're casting the same actor. I mean, they're casting the same type.
Yep.
We're out there trying to do all these things. And even in fat things, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, I don't know if this is real. This is just my thing. Any given time, there's about 5 fat actors that Hollywood has deemed acceptable. Yeah. And they get every fat role. As a producer right now, I'm trying to do a show or do a movie that has 5 fat main characters. And every person has told me to bring in the same one fat actress. And she's a friend of mine. I won't say her name, but she's a friend of mine. And I'm like, she's not even plus size in the real world.
That's a problem.
She's not. She is a size 10.
Oh, interesting.
And you're telling me to bring her in for every role in this movie. Every single person, I'm like, oh my God, we got to get this. Your friends, we got to get her. And I'm like, I would love to get her, but not for this.
Right.
Because this is not what she fits. And if I were to bring this to her, she's an amazing woman, she would tell me, I'm not going to take this role from somebody else. So I want to give it to that person that it fits. And it's so frustrating. It's like, literally, I think there's some weird penultimate group that sits there and this year the 5 actresses are. Cast them in everything. And then next year we'll redo it again. And one of them will drop because she lost weight. It's just crazy to me that literally you look at all these roles. I will watch TV all the time and be like, why didn't I go out for that? Oh, because they already offered it to you because they said you were okay.
Right.
It's so frustrating.
And it seems like there's a size barrier for sure. If 18 and under, Christy Metz was huge, a huge step forward because she was not a size 18. And I just think back to the movies of the 2000s, which when you rewatch, it's wow, cringe. But that was so formative to our culture. And the characters that were fat are a size 8'10". And you're like, oh, no wonder I had so much self-esteem issues. So that it's the media informs everything. And to go back to your question about what we can do, I really encourage everyone to diversify who they follow and to really look on your feeds and what you're consuming and, what kind of content you're consuming and to get different points of views and to get different takes and to follow people who create different things. And there's such a vast, incredible plus-size creative community online that I feel honored to be a part of. And I always think I was doing a digital series called The Word, which is an Instagram show. We were trying to sell it to Meta. And they were like, where did you find this talent? And I was like, oh my God, these are my friends. They're so
in
talented.
The real world.
Yeah, these are my friends who share online, who have never been given this opportunity or a platform. And that was really okay, I need to keep making things and getting people in front of people and out there. And the talent is there, and we're ready. Industry, we're ready. So I'm really, really excited for the future and to be here with, people who are making change.
Yeah, it feels really good. And also, just to sort of piggyback on what both of you are saying, I think that, if you're not plus size, and you're in the industry and you want to help diversify these roles, learn about being plus size, learn what language to use, what people are comfortable with, and also understand that there is a range of plus size, as we were talking about. Cast people who are size 14s, 16s, cast people who are size 28s, 30s. I think that's really important too, because again, there are people out there who are on the larger end of the plus size spectrum who still don't see themselves in, who the only, plus size models in that range that they're looking at are Tess Holiday, and she's not even in the 28, 30 range. And you know what? As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wait, who is in that range? Who do I even see in that range? So I think it's just educate yourself is really important. And you can also be that purveyor of change as well, even if you don't fit into the plus size role. And by the way, I saw the movie In Her Shoes recently. I just randomly watched it on Hulu, and I was dying laughing that Toni Collette was supposed to be the fat character in this. And I could not believe it. I remember reading that book and loving that book, and then watching the movie and thinking, oh, I relate so much to Toni Collette, and then looking at her and being like, you're like a size 8 in this movie, and they're calling you the fat pig in it? Yeah. Oh my God.
We also, too, like, I think this one might be more of a personal thing, but Elizabeth, you and I talked about it. We also, like, as actors, if you guys are actors out there, we also need to stop believing that gaining weight for a role is part of an actor's process, is part of an actor's range. It's not. It's you taking a part from an already fat actor that could have done it. And, like, I think to myself a lot, specifically with, like, we talked about, sadly, a lot of Renee Zellweger roles.
Yes.
But, like, you know, Bridget Jones, or even for Judy Garland, she talked a lot when she went off, like, she won the Oscar for playing Judy Garland, but she talked a lot in her interviews about how she had to go back to, like, the Bridget Jones days and gain, like, an extra 40 pounds. And it's like, okay, you see that as part of your role of getting into this character, which I respect and understand, but you also have to respect and understand that there was a woman who was already that weight that was waiting to play Judy Garland because that was the one character that fit her. Or, like, we talk a lot about, like, Brendan Fraser winning for The Whale this year. Understandably, there might not be a 600-pound man out there, but there sure as hell was a 400-pound actor out there. There sure as hell was a 300-pound actor out there who could have played this role, but didn't even get the part or the chance to audition because somebody at the top decided, it's okay, we'll put him in a fat suit. That's not okay. There's so many people out here. It's
never the answer.
Yeah, there's so many people out here who are waiting to be a part of this world and to be a part of the inspiration for all of us. And we're not given the chance because they're, you know, I get it. Renee's amazing, but she should not be playing fat girls because she ain't a fat girl.
No.
That's the simple thing. If you're not this, you shouldn't be playing this. And I hate that when they do that with actors all the time. It's like, you're supposed to transform into a character. You are supposed to be. But we talked about it too. I'm mixed race. And there was a whole thing a while ago about people voicing cartoon characters who were mixed raced. And how people were like, well, it should be fine for Kristen Bell, a white actress, to play a white and black character because she is white. Agreed. But guess what? There's some like me who is white and black that would have loved to play that character.
Yep.
And I didn't even get the chance. Not being cocky, just saying. You know, it's like, if you're writing for these characters, find those actors. It's not that hard. We're here. Yep. We're just waiting to get in the door.
Yeah, and if you're a script writer, anybody out a script writer out there, please start writing character descriptions any body size or plus size even or anything like that. I think that really helps and informs people who are who are turning your script into a product that they can diversify in body shapes.
And put your foot down. Like if you write that it is, I want someone over like a size 20, but then they only brought you one girl and she didn't fit it, put your foot down to try to find more. Like, stop just going and saying like, oh, okay, well, nobody else in this team believes that we can find her. We'll just go with so-and-so. Put your foot down and try to find that person because they're out there and they're waiting.
And our experience is so reflective of just how the world experiences fatness or how fatness is treated in the world. And so this is not just the entertainment industry exclusively alone. This is just a pervasive fat experience. And I would encourage each of you in your own personal life to just get curious about how you even talk about bodies in your day-to-day life. Get curious about how does your mom talk about bodies? How does your family talk about bodies? Because that informs all of this. I, at one point, was like, I'm just gonna experiment and like see what people are talking about. And I was in a nail salon and it was all women. And the conversation was, well, I've lost 10 pounds. Well, I've lost 15 pounds. Like, you look amazing. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And I was like, these are the conversations we're having. This is what we're talking about. Like, so much of our culture, especially as women, is around our body size and shrinking ourselves. And that breeds into everything that we do. So I encourage all of us to get really curious about how we're talking about just bodies in general.
Which is also like very strange. Like, this is going to sound so strange to say this on this panel, but I think this is a safe space. I agree with how we talk about bodies, but also don't hold people in certain spaces to only talk about their bodies. Yeah. Like,
Yes.
we had talked about this on our phone call, where it's like, for me coming out of Glow, the first season, every single publicity thing, press thing I did was literally, how does it feel to be the plus size girl on Glow? How do you do it? Every day. I just wake up and breathe, boy. Yeah. Like, that's all that is. It's not a trick. I'm not a witch. I just go out and live my life.
Is your blood still red?
Yeah. Wow. But it's like crazy that every single thing that I feel like a lot of stuff that came to me was talking about what it meant to be plus size. And I'm like, you're not asking Allison Brie these questions. You're not asking Betty Gilpin these questions. You're just asking me because I'm different and you've never seen me, someone like me, do what these other girls can do. Right. And the second season, I came out and told my publicity team, I don't want to do interviews that are focused on body size anymore. Drastically cut my opportunities in half. And most of the time, the people that I did to second season going forward tried to sneak it in. And then it ended up being still. They did. They tried to sneak in a question where, like, so, like, let's talk about what it means to be, like, your size. Or, like, how did you feel doing the physical aspects? And I'm like, okay, all right. And then that was what the story led with when it came out in the press. And I'm like, why? Like, one headline was literally like, this plus-size actress is changing the game. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm doing the Running Man. I look like a lot of stuff is happening, but I'm just standing in the same place because you're not letting me move past that.
Right.
Yeah.
You're still just putting that label on me, and then you're done with me after I've said I love my body, and that's drastic.
Hollywood loves to put you in a box.
And I was going to say, that's how people can consume fat actors or fat entertainers. And then when it's too much Lizzo to people, it's so much backlash, and it's depressing. It's sad.
But when it's the Kardashians, it's body positive.
Right, exactly. It's not great.
And I mean,
We're getting heated.
and when you think about the fact that it's 68% of women who are a size 14 and above, and what everyone is seeing is the 5%, right? And what the impact, I mean, I am not an actor. I'm on the business side of this. But the impact of being a fat kid growing up, and that's all you see, is lifelong. And, you know, one of the big issues is the type of roles that they create for fat people. They are, you know, the funny friend, or...
We love the fat, funny friend. That's what I go out for a lot. I'm the fat, funny friend girl.
The fat, funny
but-
sidekick.
Yes, yeah.
We are just people, and you know, the Chrissy Metz character, and the storyline is always about either they're losing weight or how their weight makes their life horrible, but you know, with Chrissy Metz in the first few seasons, the focus was on her weight, and they were talking a lot about weight loss surgery, and it was interesting that after a few seasons, that totally went away. And I know, Brittany, you had a really interesting perspective on why that was. Do you remember?
I think it's just, honestly, they realized that she was a great actor. And that she could do way more than what they were giving her. That she could give an emotional range besides being depressed, besides having low self-esteem, besides hating herself. She showed that she essentially was a Renee Zellweger.
Right, exactly. So do you have any tips for people on how to walk the balance between promoting size acceptance and tokenism and stereotypes in the work that they're creating?
I think that speaks to exactly what we're just talking about, is that creating characters that are fully fledged, that are allowed to have different aspects to them other than, oh, I want to lose weight, or, oh, I'm debating having weight loss surgery. Like, how boring. Like, you know what I mean? So, and even speaking to your point about 5% of people see themselves in media, I have done so many panels and roundtables with women and, you know, people of all sizes, and people who fit that mold still feel insecure, still feel not worthy, still have self-esteem issues. And that's when I really was like, so it's all made up? It's all made up. You know, we're making this up. So I'm going to enjoy my one life in my gorgeous, amazing body that allows me to do what I want. And I'm not going to be held to this box that people want to put me in. And that's exactly why I want to tell different stories. Roundabout answer, but, you know.
So in your experience, how have you seen audiences respond to seeing fat characters in films
Great.
and TV and social media?
Yeah.
And
I was
follow the B word, by the way.
Oh my God.
because-
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, she has the best social media.
Thank you. I was going to say my audience, because we do so much digital, so many things digital, it's such an immediate response. And I have countless comments of people saying, I've never seen something like this. I've never seen my body represented this way. I see myself in you because I star in a lot of my things. And it's so it has changed my life. It feeds my soul. I create things because I want to, but now that I have a community that is rides so hard for me and pushes my stuff out there, and it makes me, I'm like, I have to go harder for them. And so yeah, we have thousands and thousands of beautiful, gorgeous comments that are just like, get this girl a Netflix show. Like, here's all our money. Like, what are you doing next? Like, this is the first time I've ever seen stuff like this, and I didn't know how much I needed this. You've changed my life, and that has changed my life and reaffirmed my purpose and why I do this.
I think there's a really great example of a TV show out there right now that is doing everything that it should do for a fat body on screen, and that is called Somebody Somewhere, which is an HBO show. Bridget Everett plays the lead, and she is an unapologetic fat character, and nothing about the show revolves around her size. There has been barely any mention, maybe a mention when a character said, oh, you should work out or something after she, had been talking or something, but barely anything. And to me, that's just living in the world we live in and still paying attention to the stereotypes people have about fat people. But I think the show is so beautiful because she lives a full life. She's got friends, she works, she deals with mental health issues, she deals with her parents and her sister, and she goes out there and she works out with her friends, and it has nothing to do with losing weight. And I love that so much, that we see a character like your character on Glow working out and being physical and it not having to do with losing weight. Because when, to talk about representation on screen, and, I kind of quote Jonah Hill in his documentary Stutz in this, but when I was growing up, everything about exercise and eating healthfully and was all about losing weight. And that was it. I wish, and it almost makes me cry and breaks my heart that I wish I had learned that all those things were for mental health, were for physical health in a way that had nothing to do with the number on my scale. And I think a show like Somebody Somewhere is, and I think it's like the Duplass brothers behind that too, and I really love them, talk about like men in Hollywood doing good for diversity on screen, to shout that out. But I really think that when people watch a show like that and they see a full character like this, it changes everything. This changes everything.
Well, and it's also too, like, just what you're saying, like, how do you see the response? It's like, there's so many shows out there where the fan favorite is the fat character. And what are you making a show for if not the fans? Like, I think, like, Chrissy, who just, like, completely, she, like, blew up after This Is Us. Like, she became a star. Like, she was always a star, but, like, she became the star that I think she deservedly is meant to be. But, like, I think of, like, Shannon Purser, who played Barb in Stranger Things. Like, that first season, she was nominated for an Emmy. Everyone talked about Barb. Or even just, like, my character. Like, so many people come up to me. Like, I'll be standing with other Glow girls, and people will come up to me. And, like, that's baffling to me. And it really does humble me and makes me feel so good. But it is just all these things where you just look out, like, social media, all these people, Lizzo, like, all these reactions. I think Hollywood and the media, all these places are overlooking that. they think for whatever reason in their mind, what has worked in the past has been these straight size people, these straight size actors, these straight size models. But what is actually working in the real world is real bodies. Like, you see all these campaigns out there where they say real bodies, and then they show them and they're still not real, and people call them out. We're calling you out for a reason.
Yeah.
Don't ignore that criticism from the fans, because they want to see these things. And for some reason, I don't understand why Hollywood is still thinking that a show about a woman like Bridget Everett wouldn't work. And look at it. It's getting picked up. It's getting good reviews. She's nailing it. Yet for some reason, we still don't think, like, we see it and we still don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the Gina Davis Institute is going to celebrate its 20th anniversary next year, which is crazy. But that's exactly the way it was with gender, you know, when Gina started this. And so this is just, and it's one of the reasons that we took on at the Institute more than gender, you know, because that's the starting point, but they are all these other areas. So, you know, but I think this is the last one that it's still safe. I mean, this is the one that nobody is still talking about.
Well,
weird.
I feel like, you know, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but, you know, my mom always used to say that being fat would be like the last acceptable prejudice on earth here. And, you know, you do see it. You do see that, you know, society has changed in how we talk about a lot of other things, but fat jokes on TV are still really prominent and the worst for me is when I see it on those late night talk shows. Jimmy Kimmel, the other Jimmy, I can't.
Pick a Jimmy.
Pick a Jimmy. Pick a fat phobic joke from one of the Jimmys these days, because they're really prevalent. And I get really, really angry about that because people are still okay with it. People still laugh at it. And I think that we need to change that. We need to change that way. And also, you know, I wanted to mention in terms of, you know, body representation on screen, I think we also still need to pay attention to not just, you know, Hollywood, I think, has a problem is when things start to change or there's more representation, it really does center around a certain group of people, white people at first, and then so I think we also, and me as a producer, wants to constantly make sure that I'm centering, you know, BIPOC fat characters always as well, and not just, you know, continually casting white folks.
I mean, and that's important to have in any conversation about body diversity and body positivity, which is started in the political grassroots movement of fat acceptance, which was led by the most marginalized Black women, differently abled people. And like, so the movement was started there. And yeah, I hold so much privilege in this space as, you know, a white woman. And, growing up, it was like Queen Latifah. Those were the people that I loved. And so yeah, I agree. Always continuing to center Black women, people of color.
Yeah, and I think it's
AAPI too.
One of the reasons it's so important, and I'm so grateful for this festival for allowing us to do this panel every year, because truly nobody is talking about it yet, and BFF is, you know, taking a leading role in getting that done.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, and so I would like to get a few questions. Before I do that, I want you all to tell us what's going on, what's coming up next for you. Jackie, you want to start?
Oh, yeah, sure. Great. Well, I'm really excited to say that I'm working with my company, Besties Make Movies and Rose Pictures, on a documentary where Gina Davis Institute, Elizabeth in particular, is an executive producer on, called Nothing Fits, which will explore how Hollywood and fashion have worked separately and together to affect how each generation of women have felt about their bodies. So that is something very exciting. We're also working on a documentary in my company about women's pelvic pain based off of a scripted series that we did. And I am continually working on, while not crossing any picket lines and respecting the WGA strike, a feature script about my experience at Fat Camp will take place both in the early 2000s and present day. It's a dark comedy, and we'll tell the story of what happened in Fat Camp. And
I am sold. I'm sold.
And also how that trauma does follow you and affects you into adulthood, because I went to Fat Camp, and all these years later, I am still super traumatized by that experience, and it affects a lot of things about myself, my self-esteem, my confidence, everything.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm so excited to see all these things that you're working on. I'm currently working. We have a digital short coming out next week on the B Word. This is the fantasy period piece princess based on storybook characters and Drew Barrymore's Ever After, one of my favorite movies ever. Thank you. And it really looks at like a plus size princess with no prince rescuing herself. So I'll see you next week on the B Word. And we're currently in pre-production for my our next short that I wrote called Fat Ass. Very, very excited about that one. It's starring 3 plus size women who, in the log line, is 3 plus size women seduce, kill, and eat fat phobic men. So it's like Charlie's Angels meets Totally Spies. Coming to South by Southwest next year. I'm manifesting it.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So this is the goal. So I hope to make that happen. And continue acting and making things on the B Word. I'm so incredibly passionate about this work, so the journey continues.
I feel like I should have gone first to set the bar really low. No, I mean, again, continuing to try to get them auditions, get that work. But no, I am stepping in, behind the camera. I do have 2 projects right now. Unfortunately, I can't really say much about them because WGA stuff. But I do have a couple projects right now that I'm really excited to jump into that producer aspect. And again, like, one of them for sure is definitely plus size fat focused, and I'm going to be that person to put my foot down to make sure that we get those roles cast with the size bodies that we want to get cast. And then another one is just like a really great, fun rom-com that hopefully I will direct and star in as well. But yeah, just, I'm getting married.
Woo!
We can
A
talk
fat
about
person
that
getting
since,
married? What?
What?
A fat person getting married?
What? Fat person getting married and he's skinny. That's an interesting dynamic. Never seen that on TV. Never seen that on TV that way most of the time.
Well, I think My Mad Fat Diary. If you've never seen that, that was like
if
the
you guys
one
haven't
thing.
seen, Sharon Rooney is goddess.
Amazing.
Love her. But yeah, just trying to get the work, trying to do the work, and do things like this where we can go out and meet people who are also trying to do the work and get the work. And honestly, thank you guys for being here because it means a lot. Like, it really does. Like, to have the audience, to have the space to talk about this is a really, really, really great thing that we don't take for granted. So thank you guys for being here.
Yes. So I think we have time for a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions.
No?
No. Yes.
I'm really loud. Can everyone hear me okay?
No.
Sing the question, please.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to add a third prong to in front of the camera, behind the camera, and whoever the heck is designing these chairs. I'm not true. Because it's so true. I have fat friends, and it's hard for them to come to fine art spaces sometimes because the chairs.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's my push. That's the third prong. I like things in threes. Yeah. The question that I have is, I can't remember if it was NPR Pop Culture or NPR Code Switch, and they did this wonderful segment back in December about the beauty care and health care and all the things. And one of the things that really stuck out in my brain was talking about bigger bodies on catwalks and on film X, Y, and Z. And the thing that they pointed out that I was like, I get this all the time, and I should have thought about this. You're big and your face is so cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Beautiful face syndrome.
You have such a pretty face.
So, and they were putting it in context with TikTok and how, monochromatic and homogenous diversity is, now being seen across. So, when you think about bigger bodies and having a cute face, and then what's happening with TikTok that is making everything the same, how does that, again, I love threes. How does this all, talk to each other? How does it cut through with that specific kind of diversity?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got to think about this for a second.
Well, I'll make a comment just quickly to your about the space. I totally agree with you. It's hard to find. Excuse me. Great time to have a coughing fit. Diverse spaces where I have trouble fitting into these seats too. And I know you had asked a question about accessibility, and I think even in front of and behind the camera with, you know, accessibility, we can just make sure that like everybody is comfortable on set. And I think like we can put a call to action to these fine art spaces to have different seats like the ones we see in front, so people can choose what they wanna where they wanna sit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even producing theater, that was a huge part. I mean, so much of my everything I do, I say I'm like, you know, for the fat girls basically. And so then if I'm producing theater and I don't have accessible seating, like what am I doing? So that's a great call out. Even coming out here, we were like, director's chairs? And they were like, no, we got you guys good chairs, because I was even nervous about that. But your
They're
other
too comfy though.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Like
like, wow,
lounging.
I'm lounging.
Like, guys.
But your other point about TikTok, I'm like, how do I even want to approach that one? TikTok is an interesting space, and creating digitally, I had like the audience has been really interesting. I've had people find me who like love what I do, which is great, fun, and amazing when people love what you do. And then there's people who hate what I do. And so it's truly been a grab bag for me. And that's what I can say on TikTok, you know?
I feel the same about TikTok. I was on it for a while and then I stopped, because the thing about TikTok for me that's different than Instagram is on Instagram you have to seek out the content that you want to see. Whereas TikTok, it just shows it to anybody, and it allows you, well, one, it allows you to be susceptible to the people out there who do not like your content and will troll you for the rest of your life. But it also doesn't show you anything about the person that you're liking a video on. Like, I liked a video one time that I thought was super funny, and I was like, I'm gonna follow this person. Was against Black Lives Matter, huge Trump supporter. Could go all down a list, and I was like, great, I knew nothing about that off of his one funny video, yet I was still subjected to his content, and I don't want to be subjected to his content. But what you're saying about the whole, one of the things that bothers me is I've been told I'm cute my whole life. Ugh. Bitch, tell me I'm pretty. Yeah. Use the word pretty when you're excuse me, language, when you're talking about a fat person, because there are pretty fat people. They're beautiful fat people. Yeah. There are beautiful people everywhere. We shouldn't be able to receive those compliments just because our bodies are different. And it's going back to what Brianna was saying, where it was learn how you talk to people. Start calling different sized bodies beautiful. Start calling beautiful or different sized bodies pretty. It starts with us. It starts amongst our friends. Right. Going up and say, girl, you look great. You look pretty. Like, in the Black community, we will be like, ooh, polka dots. Yeah. Okay, straight hair. We know exactly what you're complimenting us on. But go ahead and do that to your friends who don't get those compliments anywhere. But I get a lot, oh my God, like on red carpets, you look so cute. I'm like, did you just say that to a skinny girl that just came up to me? Did you call her beautiful or did you call her cute? Because if you called her cute, she probably thought you thought she was 12. But for me, I just have to take it. No. So I think it goes back to just, starting to change our vocabulary and our dynamics amongst different sized bodies.
Yeah. And the worst is you have such a pretty face, because you know what that actually means? It means everything above your head is okay. Everything below your head should go. Yeah. And also TikTok, unfortunately right now, which I'm sure the Institute has been doing research on this, is that we are at an all-time high for eating disorders amongst teens and kids. And a lot of that they have shown stems from social media, because obviously there is good and bad sides to social media, but I think these filters we have are a problem. They're making kids and teens believe that that's how you have to look, and if you don't look that way, then that's a problem. And I think there's still a lot of hateful rhetoric out there about being in a larger body that these kids are just constantly scrolling, seeing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I do think
she'll take all the nuggets we can give.
Yeah.
I mean, that for me, for a long time, I was like, I'm plus size. And then at one point I was like, listen, I'm reclaiming fat. Yeah. Like, it is what it is. And I like to say it because it makes people uncomfortable too. So it's fun to like disrupt a room a little bit, and people have no problem calling you fat behind your back. I mean, they did my whole life, and so then when I called myself fat, and people were like, "Oh," and I kind of liked that. So I like to lean into it, and especially on social media.
So I think that gives me a great way to wrap the panel. So last year, Joy Nash, who was the lead in Dietland, was part of this panel.
Who we love.
And she was quoted in an interview and said, "We only need to use a euphemism when something is too terrible to talk about." And there's nothing terrible about being fat. It's a physical descriptor.
Yep.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming out. And hopefully we'll see you again next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.